What's up, football heads? Welcome back to that show. As always, I am your host, Kyle McQueen, and we are here on a glorious, beautiful, delicious Victory Monday, at least for half of us. My Vikings get a very ugly to watch, but at the end of the day, still beautiful win. Go to 7-2. I hope your team also won. And for those of you who didn't, today is 11/11, November 11th. The portal is open. Wish for better things for your franchise, and maybe it'll come to fruition. But today, Victory Monday, we got part one. Just going to go game by game. Going to hit the early 1 o'clock games, but we also had what do they call them? The international series. We had the game over in Munich, Germany. And so yeah, we'll work through those, and then I'll be back with a part two, possibly dropping tomorrow, so I can get to the Monday Night Football game on a Let Me Talk to You Tuesday, and then we'll go from there. But the Munich game, the Germany game, we've been making memes and laughing at it for months now since the schedule came out. That this is payback for what the Germans did in World War II and the Holocaust and all that, and of course we would give them the worst possible game, but they ended up getting a pretty solid contest and went to overtime. At least there was some drama. There was some tension. So at least I got to watch, to some degree, an exciting football game. And credit to the Panthers, who I wrote off last week when I did the powerless rankings. And I said Panthers probably the most likely team to finish with that top pick. At the very least, they were among 4 teams that I had as the most likely to get that top pick. And of those 4 teams, of course, 2 of them won. So me saying things and being spot on in the analysis and then somehow jinxing the team entirely has worked. So the reverse jinx here for the Panthers. They're on a win streak, 2 in a row. It's not like they're not beating the top teams, but you can only play the games on the schedule. They're handling business. And yeah, good for them. Good for the Panthers fans. You can feel good about yourselves for a couple weeks. I don't say that facetiously. It's been a bad number of years now for the Panthers. So you get 2 wins in a row. It's got to feel pretty good. Maybe you get a few more. Why not? Start building for the future. Start seeing some positive strides for Bryce Young in the offense and what Dave Canales is trying to do. And, you win 4 games, 5 games by the end of the year. You string a couple together maybe down the road, and you start to feel like, all right, maybe we're not the absolute dumpster fire, basement, worst team in the league team now moving forward. Maybe they end up with, like, the 7th pick. And it's like, all right, we're moving up in the world. But the Giants are done, man. I felt pretty confident about this one. The pass rush, I've been talking about it all year with Dexter Lawrence and those boys. They got legit war daddies up front. They should have been able to abuse Carolina's offensive line. They should have been able to get after Bryce Young and force him into making terrible decisions, bad passes. And they should have been able to handle the game on their own. From that, I talked about it last week. Tyrone Tracy, I thought was going to have a good game, and until the unfortunate fumble at the end, which he was very broken up about. He had a monster game, over 100 yards rushing, got into the end zone. If you're like me, you bet on Tyrone Tracy to get into the end zone. And what did I say last week? I said all they got to do is just lean on the war daddies, get after Bryce Young, just force him into making bad decisions or bad passes all day. You don't have to do anything crazy on offense. Just don't turn the ball over 3 times. And what do? They turn the ball over 3 times. So the Giants are done. The Giants are dead. I thought they'd win 2, probably 2, maybe 3 more games, but probably 2. They'll probably win one somewhere, maybe, but they're absolutely cooked. And I don't know if Daboll can keep his job after this season. He was a guy where you felt like, he came into a situation. He didn't draft Daniel Jones. He got the most out of Daniel Jones that we had seen by far in 2022. To the organization, they give Daniel Jones an extension based off of that, thinking like, okay, like we got the right coach in. He's instilling a culture. They made the playoffs in his first year as coach. Did he win Coach of the Year? I remember being upset thinking Kevin O'Connell should have won Coach of the Year. I don't remember if he won it that year because then Stefanski won it last year. But Dable, they kind of go all in on that combo, thinking like, all right, we got the guy. Like it wasn't a Daniel Jones problem. It was the previous organization or the previous regime's problem. And it just has not worked out at all since then. So the thought has been like, well, can you hold how bad Daniel Jones is against Dable? Like, it wasn't his guy. He didn't get to pick his guy. You bring him in because he's this great offensive mind and what he did with Josh Allen. So the thought has kind of been like, you could get off Daniel Jones after this year. Maybe then you have an opportunity to let Dable pick his own guy and go from there. Kind of get a little bit of a reset in some capacity, and it's looking less and less likely like that's going to be the case. And maybe that's still the best move, but I mean, the Giants just can't do anything right now, it feels like. And if you finish 2 wins, 3 wins, even if they finish with 4 wins, like, I don't know, man. Like, are we betting on Dable? Are we going to run it back with Dable? I still probably would, but it's a bad look right now. Maybe Dable needs to gain 50 pounds back, and maybe they'll play better. But Giants, as far as this season goes, sad to say, they're dead. They should have traded Dexter Lawrence to the Vikings for peanuts, but we still got the offseason for that. Next game I want to get into, the Patriots with a 19-3, I don't know if I can call that a drubbing, but certainly probably an upset. I guess from Vegas's point of view, an upset, but just, if not, they didn't score a ton of points, but still dominated the game. And I think there's a pretty clear reason for it. You look, both of them starting rookie quarterbacks, both starting top 3 rookie quarterbacks. What do the Patriots do? 25 passes for Drake May, 35 runs. What do the Bears do? 30 passes. Granted, they are coming back. They're coming from behind. But it's not like a massive blowout. Like, you're not coming back from down 28 points or something. Like when the Packers were down 28-0 to the Vikings and Jordan Love had to throw the ball all over the field. Like, 19-3 final score. Like, most of the game you were within 1 or 2 possessions. You don't have to just go into pass happy mode, but 30 passes to 20 rushes. And to me, this is, you got a rookie quarterback in a specific game. This is what setting your young rookie quarterback up for success versus setting your young rookie quarterback up for failure looks like. And this is what I've been saying for weeks, and they had a couple good weeks where they were doing the right things, and I felt like, all right, well, the Bears, they figured it out. And then they went right back to what they were doing. Now, granted, he didn't throw it 50 times. Whatever game that was earlier in the season where he threw like 45, 50 times. 30 pass attempts, but like, it clearly was not working. It was not going the way you needed it to. Certainly not the way you hoped that it would. And let me pull this up real quick. 16 for 30, 120 yards. I mean, it's not like they were crushing it on the ground either. DeAndre Swift, 16 carries for 59 yards, 3.69 average, so not good. Roschon Johnson, 1 carry for -4 yards. But it's just not working. I don't know if this is on Shane Waldron. I don't know if this is a Caleb Williams problem. I don't know if this is a Shane Waldron, Caleb Williams problem. I don't know if it's a chemistry problem. I don't know if it's all to some degree a Matt Eberflus problem. And I mean, he's presiding over this. Like, I barring a massive comeback this season, I don't see how or why they would keep him. I thought it was a mistake to keep him coming into the season. Not because he's been terrible. Like, they've gotten progressively a little bit better each year. He's built the defense up to be a stout unit at the very least. They got a ton of talent there. But you're bringing in I've said it a million times on the show. You're bringing in a rookie quarterback, the number 1 overall pick. Do you not want to tie him to an offensive coach that's going to be the play caller in his ear, the person drawing up the scheme week to week? Because, like, let's say that they were wildly successful this year and Caleb Williams was Rookie of the Year candidate. Like, what's happening with Jaden Daniels? Shane Waldron then is going to get a head coaching job somewhere else. And you're going to bring in another OC next year and start the process all over again. And then Caleb, if he keeps playing well, he's going to produce another, great OC that's going to go somewhere else. Like Jaden Daniels, I said it before the season. He's going to play well enough. Cliff Kingsbury, his offensive coordinator, is then going to take the head coaching job in Chicago. He's worked with Caleb Williams in the past at USC. They know how to work together. They like each other. On the record, they like each other. That always felt like a marriage to me. So if that's the case, then it may still work out. But then you're kind of losing a year of development. He's going to have to reset in the offseason and go from there. Now, do you fire Eberflus right now? I say no. I think this is a situation. If you're going to, for as much as I said the Bob Saleh firing was the right decision, I'm not a big proponent of firing head coaches in the middle of the season. I think there's two scenarios where it makes sense. One was like the Jets, where you feel like we got pieces, we got a ton of talent, we got a quarterback. We have expectations that aren't just our expectations, but outside the building expectations, fan expectations, the media expectations. And not that you're worried about that, but there's a reason there's all these expectations, because they should be a good team. They should be a playoff team. And the season's going awry. You got all these investments. You got a 41-year-old quarterback. Like, you've gone all in. You got all these defensive people. You've got weapons on the offense. And it's not working out. Bob Saleh, I've said for years, there's been cultural issues there. There's too many weird leaks and things coming out. The whole Mecole Hardman thing last year with the accusations of tipping plays or whatever to the Eagles. Like, there's just always, Aaron Rodgers has alluded to just like weird little cultural things that will add up to creating a situation that could be detrimental. And it has been for the Jets. So I thought it made sense in a situation like that to move on from your coach and try and get a spark, because a spark could be what you need to jumpstart a very talented team that should be, at the very least, a playoff contender. And then the other side is like an Urban Meyer situation where it's so far off the rails. It's so bad. It's like all time. Like, this is an embarrassment to the fans, to the organization, to football fans, that this is happening. Just get him out of here. Let's just get to the end of the season with whoever we got left, and we'll reassess in the offseason. I think those are the two situations where I can personally justify wanting to fire a coach. Are the Bears, they might have had some expectations coming into the season, but you're playing in the toughest division in football. You got an 8-1 team, you got a 7-2 team, you got a 6-3 team, all ahead of you. The NFC is starting to, a lot of those middle teams, the Cardinals are on a win streak. The Rams look to continue a win streak tonight to get 3 in a row. I think 3 in a row, maybe 4 in a row. The Niners are starting to get back. They're back over 500. So if you're the Bears, like, what do you have a ton of hope that if you fire Eberflus that you're going to get a spark? And even if you do, is that spark going to be enough? Like, the Saints got a spark. We'll talk about them later, but it's not going to be enough to do anything. So, like, do they need to fire Dennis Allen? Probably not, because they're probably not going anywhere. Like, at the very least, Dennis Allen has some respect. He's kind of just very milquetoast coach, but just goes about his business. Nobody's running amok necessarily, even if the vibes were really bad. But I don't know that firing Eberflus now is going to help you at all. I guess other than sending up the signal flare that, like, hey, we're going to be hiring a new coach in the offseason. And so, like, you put it in people's minds, like Cliff Kingsbury, like, hey, Chicago is going to be open. And it just gets them ahead of the curve. But, like, I think by the end of the season, people who would want that job will have a sense that, like, yeah, it might be open, and that they don't make the playoffs. They're going to fire him on Black Monday, and they'll still be, ahead of the curve. And you got the number 1 overall pick quarterback. Like, it's going to be an attractive job. You got a really well-built defense. You got weapons on the outside. So it's going to be an attractive job. You got Caleb Williams. You got all that stuff. And really, it's like rebuild the offensive line, redevelop a run game, and then, like, you should be good to go if you can figure that out. So I don't know that it benefits the Bears necessarily to fire Eberflus, because as much as, like, there's just been funky stuff. Like they just played terribly this week, and then the previous 2 weeks there was a weird, the weird thing with DJ Moore walking off the field, the Tyreek Stevenson thing the week before that. So like there's weird stuff going on, but is it so it's not Urban Meyer Jacksonville level chaotic. So I don't know that you need to fire him, but if they did fire him, it's like they're gonna fire him eventually. So it kind of just is what it is. He did an interview on some local station or whatever. I don't remember what it is. I should have wrote it down, but he was just given like the most generic coach speak answers to stuff, and like these local radio guys were pissed and like were like demanding answers for why the offense is as bad as it is and why they're as bad as they are. And then his cell phone started cutting out, and then he just dropped the call entirely. And the guy says, "Your reception is as bad as the offense," and that pretty much sums it up. So I don't know. Patriots playing themselves out of that top pick, but again, Drake May, nothing spectacular. 15 for 25, $184, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Nothing crazy in the run game, but defense playing like we expected the Patriots defense to be able to play. Like even last year when they were as terrible as they were, their defense played really well. So saw a great defensive performance again against a listless offense, but you give up 3 points to anybody in this league, I feel like you got to give the defense its credit. But I don't know. Patriots, they don't need a quarterback, so at the very least, like you're not like dead set on we need the top pick. We got to get the top quarterback. So I don't know that Pats fans are going to be super upset, but they may fuck around and end up playing themselves out of the Travis Hunter sweepstakes. So Pats fans might be a little upset about that. Stay in the AFC East, Bills and Colts. I was on the Colts. I was not super confident about it. It just in the spur of the moment, I felt like, we're due for an upset. We're still due for an upset. It's been weeks, and it feels like we haven't seen like a real upset since like the end of September, maybe. So I don't know why. It's just the Colts, their ability to run the ball. Jonathan Taylor's been playing really good. The Bills, we talked about it weeks ago with Tanner, that they can't stop the run at all, especially without Matt Milano. You had Keon Coleman was out. You have, Amari Cooper was nursing an injury. Can the Colts, they got the War Daddies up front, can they wreak a little havoc maybe and throw the rhythm off? And MVP Josh Allen did what MVP Josh Allen does. He started running. He found some rhythm to the pass game. He gets in the end zone. James Cook gets in the end zone. They got a pick 6 on the first pass of the game from Flacco. So like from jump, it was like, all right, we got some injuries or whatever. Don't matter. Everybody's going to make some plays in this. But the Colts, they worked themselves back in the game. Jonathan Taylor was running hard. Got himself in the end zone, I believe. But by the end, again, against a bad run defense, the Colts only ran it 22 times and they passed it 35 times. Now, in the second half, the game got away from them. They had to pass the ball more. But still, you got a bad run defense. You got a great running back. Just lean into it. He carried the ball 22 times for, I believe, 117 yards. Like, he was running it with great effectiveness against them, but they get away from it. Flacco had a bad game, threw a few interceptions. Colts looked like they were going to be feisty for a minute. They had the lead for a minute, but Bills snuffed it out, put their feet on their throats. And, I mean, Josh Allen has that ability to just, they're winning the game, to just put your foot on the throat, put the dagger in the chest, and just knife them to death. Let's not screw around. Let's not let them linger around. Let's not get cute. Let's not, take our foot off the gas and just try and start bleeding clock halfway through the third quarter. Like a Josh Allen Bills team is going to put the pedal to the metal and keep their foot on the throat and just drive you into the ground if you let them. And speaking of foots on throats and abilities to put a foot on the throat versus abilities or a lack of ability to put a foot on the throat, my old friend Kirk Cousins. Now, I warned Falcons fans about this in the offseason. I warned him about this several weeks ago. I forget what game it was. It might have been the Bucks game. I believe it was a primetime game where Kirk got conservative. He threw short of the sticks, but they end up making it work. They come out. I think they were buried deep in their own end. It was the Bucks game. He threw short of the sticks. They punted late, and they got to stop. I think the Bucks threw a pass instead of running 3 times. They got the ball back with some time. Kirk did what Kirk's capable of doing: lead the team down the field in crunch time, in need of some points. They get the walk-off win. And I said, the key play here is not on that drive. The key play was the conservative dump-off on a 3rd down that forced you to punt where you might not get the ball back. And that shit was going to rear its head at some point again in this season. And sure enough, in a game at New Orleans against the Saints team that I said last week was as bad a vibes team as there is in the league right now. Their quarterback has no confidence. He's taking shots from the outside. Cam Jordan's trying to walk out of the stadium in his full pads and gear and cleats because he don't even want to walk into the locker room. Your coach gets fired. Nothing is going right. The Saints are as bad and as down as they could be. The biggest, longest win streak of any team this season. And yeah, you got to go into their place. Yeah, they might get a spark from the interim coach, who I forget his name. I forget what his name is. It's always an Italian special teams coordinator, but every shot I saw of this guy, dude just looked like a personality. If you're an Italian special teams coordinator in the NFL, you are a character, and I'm here for it, and I love it. But he got the job done, because here again, in the end, Falcons ball. They need to drive. I believe Koo had missed a field goal. It was a wonky 4th quarter. I did not see much of this game. I was getting updates texted to me. But you got the ball. It's in Kirk's hands. We've seen him do this, especially as a Vikings fan. I saw him do this time after time his last 3 seasons with the team. You need to walk down the field, get some points, win the football game. You feel confident because Kirk is capable. And they get to a 4th and 4. 4th and 4. And Kirk Cousins throws a negative 1-yard pass, I believe, to a running back. A backup running back? I could be wrong. But there it is, rearing its ugly head. It should have never came to that. The Falcons' defense should have came to play better against a listless Saints team, bad vibes Saints team. Not that they gave up a ton of points. They only gave up 20 points. But the offense, Kirk had 0 touchdown passes, 1 interception on the day. I feel like they ran the ball pretty effectively. But you got to do better than that. They should have never been in that situation, but they were in that situation, and Kirk Cousins threw the ball short of the sticks on a 4th and 4, and they get stopped. You have to push the ball past the sticks on 4th and the game. If it's 4th down, midway through the 4th quarter, and you're kind of in no man's land, so you say, fuck it, we're going to go for it. Maybe it's 4th and 3 or something. You throw a swing pass. You feel like you got the right play drawn up. You might still argue against it, that you always want to put the ball past the sticks on a 4th down, but when the game is on the line, if you do not convert this, the game is over. You got to put the ball past the sticks. Even if it feels like you're forcing it in somewhere, like you got to have your go-to guy. You got to, as an offensive coordinator, draw something up. But as a quarterback, Kirk Cousins, you have to put the ball past the sticks on 4th and the game. That's just the way it is. That's just the way it is, and they lose, and this is how it is. So, again, they're going to win a bunch of games. They're probably going to win the division. They're going to make the playoffs. But no matter how good they are in the regular season, and there's always a game like this to remind you when it comes to Kirk Cousins, you got to wait and see in the playoffs. I still believe you could win a Super Bowl with Kirk, but you have to go on a run, a team-wide run. Everyone needs to click. So when you have one of these conservative Kirk moments, there's other guys around that have buoyed things or will make a play, or everyone else is clicking on such a level that when Kirk is in that mode, you still find a way for him to not be in this position to throw a dump off on a 4th down when you need to put the ball past the sticks. So I'm never going to bet on a Kirk-led team to go on a Super Bowl run. I do think it's possible, But again, if you're a Falcons fan out there, I've cautioned all year, you cannot get too excited no matter how good they look in a particular game, no matter how many games they win in a row. You got to see it in the playoffs. And I think this is one of those games. That's one of those plays that Falcons fans, it's going to start to crystallize in their minds a little bit. Like, okay, this is the Kirk Cousins experience. Sometimes it's good. Sometimes you get those late game-winning drives. Sometimes you get 3 games in a row where this dude has a fourth-quarter comeback, throws 5 touchdown passes, I think he threw for 300 yards in this game, throws for 500 yards or whatever it was on that Thursday night. I think it was a Thursday night. It might have been a Monday night. It might have been a Sunday night. It was a night game for sure. But then you're going to have moments like this, and it's all part of the Kirk experience. And it can be maddening. You got to just sit back, let whatever happens, and just hope for the best. That's really all you can do at this point. Speaking of hoping for the best, I feel like Bucs fans, shouts out my boy Colton. Hopefully he's tuning in today. We're going to try and get him on the show soon, talk some Tampa Bay Bucs. If you're a Bucs fan, I feel like you kind of got to just sit back and hope at this point. You feel good about what the team is capable of. When they had the receivers, they were clicking, they were cruising. Even without the receivers, last week, they almost beat the undefeated Kansas City Chiefs at Arrowhead without either one of their 2 top receivers. Baker continues to ball out. Tried to ball out in this game. I did not see much of this game, but I did see the play where he stiff-armed Bosa for about 20 yards, moving to his right, and finds a guy on a 4th down to convert to keep the game alive. Like, Baker, kudos to him, man. He refuses to lay down to any of these teams. Last 2 weeks, the 2 teams that represented each of their conferences in the Super Bowl last year, and Baker Mayfield, one on the road, one at home, without his top 2 receivers, almost beat both of them. He ain't laying down. He ain't going to die. So as long as you got Baker behind the center, I feel like he's going to be doing everything possible to win games. And so the team is going to follow that. They are going to fight, and they are going to be in all these games. But without Godwin for the rest of the year, without Evans for as long as they don't have Evans, like, is Bucky Irving going to be enough? Shouts out Bucky Irving. Always love seeing Bucky Irving play. Let's see how Bucky Irving did today or yesterday. 13 carries, 73 yards, 5.62 average on the ground, and a touchdown. Let's get him some more carries. You know I love me some Rachaad White, but 10 carries, 31 yards, that ain't going to get it done. You got to ride the hot hand. We got to get Bucky Irving 18 touches a game. Let's get him up there. Love some Bucky Irving on the program. But Baker's always going to give you a chance. Baker's always going to keep the culture high. He's going to keep the mood high. He's going to keep the guys engaged. They're going to feel like we can win this game, whatever game that they're in. But until they get Evans back, it's going to be tough. But they have a bunch of winnable games coming up. They should be getting Evans back at some point. So I think Baker doing what he's doing these last few weeks without those guys, just keeping the spirit alive, I think is going to let them go on a run here late in the season. Is it going to be enough? Because the NFC, like I said, the middle's starting to elevate a little bit. You got some of these teams that had injuries getting their guys back. 49ers being one of them, get Christian McCaffrey back. He didn't have a monster game by any stretch, but 13 carries, 39 yards. Didn't get into the end zone. But he had 6 grabs, 68 yards. So over 100 yards of total offense. So he's just going to keep getting ramped up, and in a couple weeks he should be back to peak Christian McCaffrey. So they're getting their weapons back. Juwan Jennings had a monster game, 7 grabs, 93 yards. Ricky Pearsall, 4 for 73, had his first career touchdown. Shouts out to Ricky Pearsall. Debo, 5 for 62. Kittle, 3 for 57 and a touchdown. And a game-winning drive for Brock Purdy. 49ers at 5-4. So, that's another team on the rise. Rams on the rise. We talked about the Cardinals on the rise. So maybe it's too late for Baker and the Bucs, but the Falcons, big loss to the Saints. They dropped down to, 6-4 now? So if you're Tampa, you're still only 2 games out. You still got the possibility to sneak back in this. Let me see if I can pull up their schedule. I know we looked at this last week, but I'm going to pull it up now to get a better sense. Let's see. They got a bye coming up, so that's good. That's a week without Mike Evans that you don't have to play anyone. So hopefully you get him back after the bye. But then they got the Giants, the Panthers, the Raiders, three of the worst teams in the league, maybe the three worst teams in the league. No offense to the Panthers on a 2-game win streak. Then you got at the Chargers, at the Cowboys, Panthers, Saints to finish the season. So you got 2 Panthers games, the Saints game, the Cowboys, Raiders, Giants. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 winnable games. You win those winnable games, you're a 10-win team. Now, problem is Falcons swept them. So, like, if you get the 10 wins, are the Falcons going to lose that many games if they only win 9 games? Probably not, but you still might be in the wild card hunt. Some of these teams are going to beat up on each other. You got all those NFC North teams in there. The Packers and Vikings have another game. Maybe it comes down to tiebreakers, but it's going to be tough. But I feel like Baker has kept the spirit alive, and that's going to give them a chance when they get to these winnable games after their bye. Hopefully they get Mike Evans back, get some rest for the defense. They had a tough test last few weeks, but I'm not writing the Bucs off, man, because of Baker. Baker just gives them a chance. But Niners get a big win. They get above 500. They're certainly back in the mix, back in the wild card mix, back in the divisional race. So I expect, even though the Niners, as they've clawed back, still haven't looked like that dominant Niners team that we've seen the last few years, they're playing good enough, and they're an experienced team. They've had a lot of runs before. They know how to win. It's like the Chiefs. Like, the Chiefs never blow anybody out, but they just find ways to win games. And then you think, this team isn't as good as the past Chiefs team. And then they go on a playoff run and they win another Super Bowl. And you're like, well, I guess maybe they were as good as the past Chiefs team. So don't lull yourself to sleep on the Niners. They're not as dominant as they used to be. This is a flawed team. It may be a flawed team. Every team to some degree is a flawed team, but they've been there before. They have the experience. So even if they're not blowing teams out, bludgeoning teams to death, as long as they find ways to win games, they're going to be dangerous if and when, probably, they make the playoffs. Steelers pick up a big win. I haven't been low on the Steelers. It's just been one of those things where it's like, who have they beaten? Can we trust the offense? Do we know for sure? Their defense is really good, but are they really a top contender type team the way the record suggests? Everyone's slurping the Ravens, myself included, even though I had my nitpicks and I stand by them. But, Lamar is playing at an MVP type level. Derrick Henry, offensive player of the year, front runner. He's got to be right now. So they're getting all the attention, but they haven't been in control. They haven't been in the lead of the division at all this season. It's been all Steelers, and I feel like myself especially has been not writing them off, but just we'll see. We'll see when they play some better teams. Well, they got a better team. They got a 7-2 Commanders team coming in. The Steelers defense got worked around a little bit. They gave up 27 points. I believe that's the most they've given up all year, and they found a way to get the win. The offense was able to keep pace. Russ might not be all the way back, peak Super Bowl tier Russ, but he's damn sure back. Seems like he's enjoying playing football again. You gotta like to see. I was someone that always kind of felt like there was something phony about him. I didn't really like him, and part of it was him abusing the Vikings every time they played. But he just always felt like there was this layer. He could never really see who the true Russ really was. He was, to some degree, portraying a character of this is what a great quarterback leader is supposed to look and sound like. But he got beat up so bad by the media and the fans, and he got memed to death. And eventually it gets to the point where it's even if he was fake and phony, did he deserve this level of vitriol thrown at him? Probably not. So I like seeing him back, having fun out there. He drew him off sides to seal the game, and he was fist pumping, fired up, high fiving the guys. So it's nice to see Russ back. It feels like he's in the right spot. It feels like the team likes him. The guys are behind him. And as a personal note to myself, we got to start giving the Steelers their due. Because, again, the defense did not have their best game, might have had their worst game of the season. But Russ and the offense, they were able to keep pace, had a lead, lost the lead, were able to claw back in, and again, force the offsides there at the end to seal the deal. Got to give the Steelers love, got to give them respect, got to give them their due. I did bet on them for the over for their win total because it's Mike Tomlin, and if the over-under is 8.5 or less, we bet on Coach T. So I did bet on Coach T, but I did not expect them to be sitting here at 7-2. So shouts out to the Steelers, man. It's a good test. There's two teams you didn't really feel, a 6-2 team, a 7-2 team. You didn't really feel like either one of them has truly been tested yet. You got to give them, you can only play the games on your schedule, so you can't sit here and say, they're trash, they're overrated, whatever. But it's still very much wait and see. So these two teams coming together, the Steelers get it done. Washington, they were not overwhelmed. They were losing early. They didn't just fall apart. They clawed back in it, took the lead. Just a hard-fought game all around. So I don't think you walk away from this thinking like, oh, Washington, yeah, they're frauds all along. They're not frauds. They're just young. They got a rookie quarterback. They're inexperienced, and they've learned how to win games fast in his rookie season. Again, 7-2 coming into the game, 7-3 as it sits right now. But they got to learn how to win the hard games. They got to learn to win these close games. They've won some close games, and they got to learn how to win these close games against better opponents, top contenders, teams like that. And it's a process. So, if they lose to the Eagles next week, I believe it's on Thursday Night Football. I believe it's in Philly. I could be wrong about that. But, people are going to start talking, Washington, they're frauds. People love throwing the fraud word around. They're not frauds. It's part of a process. They may have been a little bit ahead of the curve. And so these types of losses against, even if they get blown out by Philly, these things, they stand out more because they were so ahead of the curve. So I'm not expecting the Commanders to go on a run this year. I'm just not. If they do, good for them. But I don't expect it. But again, it's all part of a process. You have a good season this year. If you get a taste of the playoffs, even if it's a one and done like that, it's experience that puts you ahead of the curve to then next year and the year after that to stay ahead of that curve and get into that true Super Bowl window with a guy or a quarterback on a rookie scale contract earlier than you expected. So then you got a bigger window before you got to pay the guy, and then you can't pay other people and all that. So, but the big fallout from this, Steelers maintain control of the division, and it's not a tight control. The Ravens are constantly nipping on their heels now, but they maintain control. Commanders now lose control. The Eagles, who got a big win. We'll talk about that in part 2 against the Cowboys. They're now 7-2 to the Commanders 7-3. So now the Commanders fall a half game back, but they got Philly, like I said, I believe Thursday night this week. So they take care of business there. They get control back. They get a big win over a good team, a potential contender team, depending on how you view the Eagles. I'm still kind of like, they're another team I feel like, have we seen them, who's the best team that they've beaten? The Packers, but it was week 1 in Brazil, and then beyond that, the Bengals, who are 4-6. Are they really, they got a good quarterback, they got a good receiver, they got another good receiver, but are they a good team? I wouldn't necessarily say so right now. So I'm still in wait and see mode on the Eagles in terms of how great are they? Are they truly a top contender, like they looked like this week, or are they going to falter a little bit against better teams? So I think this Commanders-Eagles game is going to tell us a lot about both of these teams. But both teams, Eagles will be in a position to lengthen that lead, game and a half lead over the Commanders, plus you get the one-up in the head-to-head, and the Commanders got a chance to take it back, get that first game against the Eagles, and guarantee that you're at least going to tie and have to go into, what's the next one, divisional record for a tiebreaker if they end up with the same record. But last 2 games of the 1 o'clock slate, I'm going to start with my Vikings. One of the ugliest games I've ever seen. Defensive struggle. I don't think it's comparable to last year's 3-0 or 3-0 win over the Raiders that everyone complained about. I love that game. Every blade of grass mattered in that game. Both defenses came to play. It's like every little detail mattered by the end of that game. This was just sloppy, ugly, ineffective football. The Jags offense had one drive where they got the touchdown. It was their second drive of the game. Did absolutely nothing after that. Just like ineffective, I don't even think is the right word for it. It was non-existent. Run game, pass game, anything. The Vikings just snuffed it out. After that second drive, the Jags did absolutely nothing. Vikings, meanwhile, moved the ball up and down the field all day. And then as soon as they would get to the red zone, Sam Darnold would say, I need to throw a touchdown to Justin Jefferson. And he would go full Brett Favre and throw an interception. Two interceptions in the end zone. 3 interceptions where the interception was made in the red zone. So they moved the ball all day. They couldn't find the end zone. They scored 12 points to the Jags, 1 lonely touchdown, win the game 12-7 on 4 Parker Romo field goals in Parker Romo's first NFL game. He was with the Vikings in camp, inevitably lost out the job to draft pick Will Reichard, who's now on IR. We also had a new long snapper in because our long snapper went on IR, so you got a whole new operation. And all 3 of those guys got game balls because, again, you're coming in on a short week. You want to have the same operation, long snapper, holder, kicker, as long as possible because that is a delicate process. Like we as fans tend to overlook it as just like an automatic thing, and then like if the guy misses the kick, it's like, oh, this kicker sucks. But like maybe it was the hold, maybe it was the snap, maybe it was a combination of factors. You don't really know unless you know what you're looking for and you watch the tape. And like, who among us as fans is watching tape of special teams? But to come in on a short week and get that done and win, literally the game came down to we need these field goals. Like there was no like, we can miss a couple field goals, it'll be all right. Like you needed the field goals. You needed them. Because even if you didn't have the 4th field goal, you're still up 9-7, but that might change the calculus for the Jags. They might approach that last drive different in terms of let's just bleed it out and get in the field goal range and kick a kick and win 10-9. So you needed those kicks. Our new long snapper, McQuaid, who I guess has made a Pro Bowl before. I'm not sure who, but one of his snaps was pretty errant, and Ryan Wright, the punter, was able to snag it and get it down. Parker Romo, like I said, first NFL game, was able to nail all 4 of his kicks. So shouts out to them. They got it done. But, man, Sam Darnold, I said last week, I don't think it was a bad game. I thought it was a rough game. And, again, he moved the ball very effectively between the 20s. But this was a game where it felt more like, all right, this is kind of bad Sam Darnold. Again, move the ball. Can't take it away from him. Threw for 241 yards, I believe. But no touchdowns. Couldn't put the ball in the end zone. And just made critical errors forcing the ball to Justin Jefferson. When you're moving the ball, like they were getting everything in the middle. Josh Oliver had another great game catching the ball. TJ Hawkinson, I think he had 8 catches for 70-something yards. He converted 3 first downs on third downs in the same drive at one point. Like, you were getting everything you wanted in between the numbers to the tight ends, and then we would get in the red zone, and it's just like, all right, where's Justin? Where's Jefferson? Where's Jets? Where's Jettas? I got to get him the ball. And they were bad passes on top of it, but also he's getting bracket coverage on every single play. They did an excellent job. They did maybe the best job the Jags did of any team this season covering Justin Jefferson. So the Jags defense did some good things, despite having the ball moved on them all day. Like, they bowed up when they needed to, and they made plays when they needed to, and they forced situations for those bad plays to happen. So shouts out to the Jags defense, man, but it wasn't enough because the Minnesota Vikings defense absolutely dominated the entire game. Other than that one drive, dominated the game, forced punt after punt after punt after punt after punt. And then when it came down to it, it's like, all right, these guys can't score. Meaning their own offense. We need a turnover right now you felt the momentum starting to slip a little bit, maybe. We need a turnover right now just to like reinforce to the Jags offense, like, nah, y'all ain't doing shit. And give the ball to our offense in the red zone, at least in field goal range. Harrison Phillips, forced fumble recovery. We get the ball. What happens? Ineffective drive. Sam Darnold gets sacked on third down, punted away. Jags get the ball back. Then what happens? Byron Murphy Jr., another timely fourth quarter interception 3 weeks in a row for Murph. Get the ball back for the Vikings. They run the ball. They got a 3rd and 1, I believe. And they were in a range where I was like, okay, like, you might go for it here on 4th down. Like, yeah, if you're gonna give them a short field if you don't get it, but like maybe you go for it here. Maybe you go for it. I don't know. But it's 3rd and 1, and they pass the ball. Like, number 1, you want to run the ball to run the clock. And number 2, Sam Darnold has not been playing very well. And number 3, you've been running the ball fairly effectively when Aaron Jones was on the field. And Aaron Jones at this point was back on the field after it looked like a rib injury, and he was taken out for a while. He got carted off at one point. They said he was good to go. Then he gets carted off, and then he comes back out, and then he goes in the game. But then the Jags get the ball back again. They start driving a little bit, and there was a questionable call because the refs, once again, in a Vikings game, were terrible. Now, Mac Jones gets a little face mask on a Blake Cashman sack, and of course the refs see that face mask, so that gets called. But Cash comes back, makes a play after that, gets some heat on him, gets some heat on Mac Jones as he's going deep. Cam Beasley Bynum tracks it into the end zone. Secures the interception, does maybe the celebration of the year, shouts out Ray Gunn. I hope she saw it. I hope it made her laugh in a good way. She didn't deserve all the hate that she got that made her retire. It's not that serious. We need to stop giving people so much shit on the internet. But shouts out to Ray Gunn, shouts out to Cam Beasley Bynum. Yet another clutch play. All this dude does is make clutch plays to end games, intercepts it in the end zone, and we're going to get it at the 20, run the clock out, but then they say, oh, New York called down. They had to make up some rules on the fly about, well, his momentum carried him into the end zone, but because his knee came down, we got to spot the ball at the 1 yard line, so they had to do a QB sneak, get it out to the 2, run it again, get stuffed, run it on 3rd down. Aaron Jones, he almost gets the 1st down, almost gets it, but he doesn't. And then Travon Walker sitting here punching the ball well after the whistle. They throw the flag. Finally, the refs throw a flag in favor of the Vikings in a critical situation where it was called for, as it has been now for weeks. But they throw the flag, 15 yards, 1st down. Vikings kneel it out, get the win. And ugly game, ugly win, but you'll take it. They're 7-2. They keep pace, doing what they got to do. Handling business, first game, first win of a 3-game road stretch. They got the Titans next week. They got the Bears after that. So winnable games here coming up for the Vikings. Just got to keep handling business. And two big stats from this game that I watched every single snap of. Time of possession. The Vikings had the ball for over 42 minutes. Over 42 minutes. Most a team has possessed the ball this season. They also ran more plays in Jacksonville territory than Jacksonville ran plays, period, in the entire game. And yet somehow they only came away with 4 Parker Romo field goals. But today, we're all Romo-sexuals. Shouts out Parker Romo, the man formerly known as John, the great Parker Romo, coming through for the purple. But here's one last stat. The Vikings are the first team to have 0 offensive touchdowns and throw 3 interceptions and still win a game since 2006, where the Green Bay Packers did just that against the Minnesota Vikings. But day started off great for me. Early games, Vikings get a win. Doesn't matter if it's ugly. A win is a win is a win. We're 7-2. Let's fucking go. And I flip over and I look, all right, how are my Broncos doing? Because you know me. You know I sat up here, I gave an impassioned speech of why Broncos country, let's fucking ride. We're going to Arrowhead, and we're going to go in there, and we're going to beat the Chiefs. Doesn't matter how it's got to get done, we're going to get it done. They come out, they jump out 14-3 lead, but then here come the Chiefs. Chiefs coming back. Travis Kelce on a 4th down gets a touchdown. Now it's tight, but they're holding it. But then the Chiefs, they get the lead late. This is it. But what did I say? The Chiefs, 4D chess. They know how to win the game that they're in. But here, the Broncos get the ball. They got time left on the clock. What else did I say? I said, if you are going to beat the Chiefs, you got to have the ball with the lead or going to take the lead inside 10 seconds with the Chiefs having no timeouts. And here the Broncos with Sean Payton, who I hate, but he has proven that he knows how to play 4D chess. And here he is. He leads his team, calls the plays. Bo Nix takes him right down the field. They get in the field goal range. Chip shot field goal. 34-yard field goal. They're going to kick it, win the game. With zeros on the clock, this is exactly what I said you got to do to beat the Chiefs. They put themselves in a position to score a relatively easy score to take the lead with no time left. There's nothing they can do. Patrick Mahomes ain't going to get the ball back. He ain't going to get the ball in overtime. The game's over. It was in your hands, and you put the dagger in the Chiefs' chest with zeros on the clock. They go out, they kick the field goal, and it's blocked. 34-yard field goal, and it's blocked. And guess what? If Chanel had not blocked it, if you just evaporated him out of existence and they only had 10 guys rushing on the play, guess what? There was about 4 or 5 other guys that were going to block the field goal. I don't know what happened. I don't know if what in the procedure went wrong, if it's just the Chiefs special teams, or if it's just the Chiefs is the Chiefs is the Chiefs. And like I said last week, when the game's on the line, when they're in a game, whether they have control or not, whether nobody has control, the Chiefs will identify, all right, here's what we got to do to win this game. And they do it. And in this case, it was, well, we need to do one of the rarer things in football. We need to block a field goal. And not just a field goal, a short chip shot field goal. We need to block it or pray that he misses it. But the only thing in our control is rush this kick, block this kick. They rushed the kick, and they blocked the fucking kick. So I was this close to being absolutely right and picking the upset of the week, the upset of the season thus far. I smelled it. I could sniff it. I was sniffing it out. We had it, baby. We had it. The Broncos were cooking. Broncos country was riding. It was right there. It was in their hands, and the Chiefs just took it from them. Took it from them like Debo snatched the chain, man. I'm taking a victory lap anyway. I'm taking a double victory lap because this ain't on me. I sniffed it out. The Broncos had it. They had them right where they wanted them. They didn't get the win, but they did everything but win the game. And listen, I couldn't be out there blocking for them, so it was out of my hands. But I told you the Broncos, they were going to be in this game. They were going to win this fucking game. So I'm taking a victory lap. I don't care. I'm taking the victory lap, and I'm taking another victory lap for telling you that the Chiefs is the Chiefs. First of all, I gave you the blueprint how to beat the Chiefs. Now, it's not something you could schematically just put in. I am not a football genius. I don't know how to fucking call an offense or a defense or any of this shit. But if you want to beat the Chiefs, you got to put yourself in that position, ball in your hands with the lead or about to take the lead with less than 10 seconds off the clock. Broncos did that. And then I also told you that the Chiefs, they play 4D chess, and they're going to identify the game that they're in, and they're going to do whatever they got to do in that position, as I just said, to win the game. And that's what they did. So I'm taking 2 victory laps despite the loss. Broncos country, I'm sorry. We were riding. I was right there with you. I know it's frustrating. I know it sucks. But it's the Chiefs, man. You got to just give it up to them. Take it. I know they're a divisional rival, but at the end of the day, you just got to accept the fact. You just got to accept the fact. And that's what it is, man. So that's it for part 1. And tune in tomorrow for part 2, baby. Till next time, take it easy, football heads.